Another scrimmage eve has arrived. That's correct. It is a Freaky Friday on the beat. He is Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. And it's the Austin Birm Show.
These weeks are flying by, man. Holy moly.
It goes so fast. In 15 days, Ohio State is going to play Texas. And Ryan Day has said this, going into the first scrimmage, that was moving week. Scrimmage number 2 seems when it gets solidification week.
Settling week.
Settling Saturday.
It's unpack your stuff week, I think. And in some cases, it's still, we have no idea what to expect week. Especially, it seems like there's just 2 position battles that are really open.
Only 2?
I think right tackle and quarterback seem to still be the ones that are most discussed. There's certainly nuance and some moving around and determining who's going to get the first snaps at running back or the first snaps at defensive end or for defensive tackle. None of that stuff matters. All those guys are going to play. When it comes to your right tackle and your quarterback, that seems like the biggest storylines heading into the weekend. And, we've seen all week, there's this percolation of expectation that Julian Sayin will be named quarterback on Monday. And
a percolation of expectation?
A percolation of expectation. When we hear that, based on what we've seen, do you just automatically buy it? Or do you think that Saturday is still determinative?
Well, it counts for something because if the first scrimmage is largely about getting as much information as possible, and I think that Ryan Day and the coaching staff did that. I think they left pretty happy. You knock on wood and you take a deep exhale afterwards when you don't have those injuries. That gives you, a big week to build into to get ready for the second scrimmage where if there were mistakes, if there were bright spots, either way, you're looking for correction of the issues that you had or validating the things that went right. So I do think that there are there's increasing conversation and a larger volume of reps to maybe look at Julian Sayin and say that this is the arm that Ohio State needs to build around. I don't think that it's guaranteed that, if these scrimmages carry a lot of weight, there are very few opportunities that they're going to go fully live. Now, the quarterbacks aren't going to get hit, but if somebody leads the offense down on 3 scoring drives and somebody else does 0, that's going to be the lasting impression going into Monday when I think Ohio State very much wants to settle on this. Ryan Day, with one exception, has got past the second scrimmage, whether the week before was talking about separation or not. You got through that point in the middle of the month and the attention shifted to the game and he said, this is the guy that's going to do it, and you put the game plan in around him for those 2 weeks. It was 2 years ago that didn't happen. And I think that was largely a reflection of 2 scrimmages that had mismatched information.
Yeah.
So, I think Saturday counts. I think that the leader is the same leader that we thought it was going to be. I don't believe that that's changed. Does that mean that it can't change? No, but I think it would be pretty surprising at this point, and it would take something well outside of what the rest of the body of work has been thus far to disrupt.
There's 27 practices between the spring and training camp so far, right? Like, I don't know that either quarterback can fundamentally do anything that's going to be so different on Saturday that it changes the tenor of the conversation. Now, there is, I guess, a world where, as you said, if one quarterback goes out and has 4 scoring drives and the other guy doesn't, turns it over and sloppy with the football, sure, then I think you could maybe see the seesaw shift. But if the weight is starting to go one way, I think that's what we should expect. And I've been thinking a lot about you asked Ryan Day about the quarterback competition and which one it reminded him of. Mm-hmm. And he brought up Dwayne Haskins and Joe Burrow. I think a lot of people naturally make the assumption it's Kyle McCord and Devin Brown. I keep going back almost to 2021. And the difference being that Kyle McCord was competing against C.J. Stroud and Kyle was a true freshman. And that's not the case with Lincoln Kienholz here. But I see so many similarities between the conversation around CJ and Julian and like what their strengths are, what makes them the favorite to be the starting quarterback. But then you hear the downsides or the negatives, and I want to be clear, that's not like negative, but when you are saying, okay, maybe he's not leading as vocally. CJ, it took him a long time to be that guy. Like CJ at that point had been in the program just as long as Julian has been here. Mm-hmm. I think to me that comparison that year is similar in a way that we haven't really discussed, because I think it's forgotten largely at times that this last year was really the first opportunity for Ryan Day to evaluate Julian Sayin as a whole. Like, yeah, he was their top target at quarterback in the class of 2024, but because Dylan Raiola was committed to Ohio State for so long, and then Aaron Nolan committed right away, and Julian was committed to Alabama for so long, there really wasn't an opportunity to evaluate him as a person, as a prospect. Like Corey Dennis had the relationship with him. Ryan Day was not going to spend a lot of time talking to a quarterback that was committed somewhere else when Ohio State had Aaron Nolan committed. So like this last year has been instructive in teaching Ryan Day who Julian Sayin is. And I think maybe if he can draw some parallels to CJ and how he was as a leader, as a person, both come from Southern California, both like the natural passer traits that they have, I think that there's something there that I've repeatedly brought up Will Howard and his impact on Ryan Day, the way he evaluates things. And I wonder if there's a part of him that says, well, this was a lot like how CJ was, and it turned out okay. But CJ didn't light the world on fire in his first training camp out here when he was the expected starter. He struggled in week 1 at Minnesota. There were questions about how bad he wanted it.
He threw for 480 yards in week 2.
Yeah. Well, he turned it around quickly. I'm saying, like, I think that there's some similarities in that we didn't see CJ in that first training camp in 2021 come out here and just light the world on fire. But like, it's like, this is the guy, we just need to be patient and give him the opportunity to flourish. And I wonder if there's some of that discussion around Julian.
I want to go on this journey with you. Yeah. I'm having a hard time getting on the 2021 similarity. If you want to say that you think that there may be elements of CJ Stroud that apply directly to Julian Sayin, I think I could entertain that conversation.
Yeah, let's just focus on that.
Yeah,
part.
okay. Because
the competition
part,
it was never.
There wasn't a competition.
We never thought Kyle was going to be the starter, but I think the similarity I see is that Ryan Day is waiting for Julian Sayin to emerge, much like he was waiting for CJ Stroud to say, "This is my job, and I'm going to do everything to keep it." And there were moments in that training camp when there were questions about how badly CJ was really invested, how much he wanted it. Even in the season after the Minnesota game itself, or it's after the Oregon game, I apologize, where he threw for 480 yards, where Ryan Day said, we need to figure out how bad CJ wants this. And then he had a week off, and Kyle got a start. And then it was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not going to mess around and open this door.
Yeah.
That's where I see the similarity, not necessarily the competition aspect of it.
Yeah, because I think, and the challenge is different, I think, right now, because the conversation, and I can see where you're coming from in terms of Ryan Day's description a week and a half ago. It's not just about 7-on-7 accuracy numbers, going 13 for 15 in a practice period. He went back and doubled down and said it is about commanding the huddle, it is about communication, leadership in the locker room, all those other things that earn you the job. I do think that part very much reminds me of the challenge that he was issuing to CJ Stroud and trying to light that fire under him to elevate to that level. And I think the difference is in 2021, when you're trying to do that with CJ Stroud, you had to.
Yeah,
there was
no other option.
There wasn't a world where Kyle McCord was going to win that job coming out of camp. Quinn Ewers barely practiced throughout that month, and Jack Miller was not going to be an option. So it was obvious where it was going to go. And Ryan Day's, I think, reluctance to name him a starter and having the shoulder injury, not throwing on Big Ten tour date, whatever, during that month, made it more complicated. But there wasn't going to be a different outcome.
Yeah.
And the physical tools and everything else were undeniable compared to what else was in the room. And I think the only difference is if you're trying to get the same thing out of Julian Sayin right now that you did out of CJ Stroud 4 years ago, it's like if you don't do that, I think Ohio State does view there being another viable alternative to lead the offense, which is why that circles back to Joe Burrow and Dwayne Haskins. If you don't take on the all-encompassing role, then the physical tools may not be enough on their own.
And it may change the offense a little bit based on what your vision is for that season. If we think about the 2018 season where Dwayne Haskins is the starter and Joe Burrow transfers to LSU, like how different would that offense have been if Joe was the starter? Because
dramatically.
And so I don't know if the difference is that stark between Julian and Lincoln, but I think it's part of the conversation. Like there's a lot more layers to this conversation than Ryan Day really is able to get to publicly, because he doesn't really know either of these two as a quarterback. I mean, that's the reality. Lincoln's played quarterback for 18 months now, and exclusively, and Julian is still new here and trying to figure out exactly how he fits. So it is a fascinating turn of events, but ultimately, if the outcome is what we've always expected, then it does feel similar to the C.J. Stroud thing to me. Like, we know he's going to be the guy. We believe that, but in this instance, maybe Julian is getting better.
He's getting a better push.
He's getting a better push than CJ did, and I think maybe that can help expedite the process.
I think that's the important part with, the notion that has been out there, or the critiques or suggestion that this isn't a legitimate battle. Competition is healthy and good for Ohio State, and I think it's going to bring out the best of Julian Sayin personally. And I think that's the expectation from Billy Fessler and Brian Hartline and Ryan Day.
Yeah, it's the same conversation happening in South Bend right now. I mean, with Kenny Minchie and CJ Carr, like this, you can have an expectation, but once you go between the field, then everything can change.
Yeah, and this is a program as well that it is not just a cliche or a T-shirt. When they say that everything is earned, not given, like it would have been disgraceful. It would have undermined everything about this program. If they're like, well, we're just going to hand this one over right now. We're going to build the entire month out of Julian Sayin, and that would have been probably unfair to Lincoln Kienholz and Julian Sayin. Yeah. Like they need each other, and Ryan Day has said this a bunch. And whether it works out or doesn't, like over 16 games, even last year, Devin Brown had to come off the bench, and he threw come in cold. Throw a touchdown with the pressure in your face. Jeremiah Smith helps out with a little one-handed grab, but that was a pretty pivotal play in a road scenario for Ohio State. So
that moment's coming for these guys.
That's going to happen at some point. And this conversation is not meant to say, well, everything is on Saturday. This is the scrimmage eve, and if Julian Sayin doesn't perform up to that level, that someone else is going to take the job or Lincoln's going to win the job. I don't think that's going to happen. And as you said, it would take something way out of like a real outlier from what he's done at this point, which I think has been steady growth, not like spectacular, but getting better day after day after day, which is what you want. That's what competition brings out of people. And I don't think you could have asked for more. And it also happens to line up pretty conveniently with the way that Ryan Day tends to operate these battles. Yeah. But you still have that does still make Saturday significant for both of them.
Certainly, again, because someone has to grab it and not give it up. And I think that's what we'll see happen. That's not the case at right tackle. It's a direct competition, I think, between Ethan Anianwa and Philip Daniels. But as Philip Daniels said earlier this week, he's not being inspired by Ethan Anianwa. He's just trying to do his job. He lost his black stripe this week. Certainly momentum appears to be on his side, but that can change quickly if you go out there in a scrimmage situation and don't play your best. So lots of intrigue at those two positions. Is there any other position? I know earlier in the week you talked about running back and how you thought this was a big week for those guys.
Yeah.
Is there anything else positionally that you're like, hey, I'd like to know about this coming out of Saturday?
It's all about filling out the two deep, really, because for all of the conversation we've had about depth and competitiveness about this, I think we know. I'd be really surprised if we couldn't fill out who the 11 are going to be on both sides of the football against Texas. Yeah. So that's up in the air at right tackle. There's a part of me that...
You don't buy it?
It's not that I don't buy it. I think that they're going to probably play them both, to be honest with you. And I think that's a good thing. It's a tribute to what Philip Daniels has done. And I think they're just when you talk about finding something to unlock in a player and throughout August, I think they're trying to do that with Ethan Onianwa. He's only been here for 7 months. I think he's based on my conversations with him, very receptive to coaching. I think he's taken what's going on with nutrition. He's taken everything from Tyler Bowen. He's moved and he's played guard, which is probably not what he anticipated when he got here out of the transfer portal. I think he's going to be in the starting lineup. That would be like where I put down, the chips. But I think Philip Daniels has to play. I think my question is not even right tackle. It's how serious is the discussion at guard? Because when Ethan Onianwa talked on Tuesday, like the first people that he mentioned for giving him fits were the guards, which
the interior
defensive tackles, the interior guys, which means like he's probably getting a fair amount of reps there. And also, given his size, it doesn't necessarily come as a surprise to me that he would struggle with that. Yeah. That's why people with his frame are typically at left or right tackle. So, Tegra's a bigger guy as well, but
Tegra's always been the first guy off the bus dude in the offensive line group, or now he happens to be like the second guy off the bus behind Ethan because Ethan's the only guy bigger than him. The question is, if Tyler Bowen weren't a first-year offensive line coach at Ohio State, if these two guys weren't first-year players at Ohio State, does the conversation change? And if you're Ethan Anianwa, do you really believe you have a shot to be the starting right guard? And if that's the case, does that mean that Luke Montgomery's job is tenuous with because now Tegra Shabola can maybe move there? Or like it's just weird because this is year 4 of Tegra Shabola, it's year 4 of Carson Hinsman, it's year 3 for Luke and Austin Sarabell, and you think these guys are pretty well established, and now you have this other question that's popped up in these last few days, and I don't really know. I don't think we'll get an answer there. Like I think we're much more likely to get an answer at quarterback on Monday than we are at right tackle / right guard, because I don't know that answer is definitive either way.
Yeah,
I think it's like as you said, everyone's going to play, so we're looking for 8 guys who can play.
I think. So I didn't think I'd be at this point, and I don't even know that it's a bad thing. In fact, I think I've talked so much about the depth and how Ohio State can trust 8, 9, 10 guys on the offensive line. I'm not going to switch up on that. I do think it's possible that if you aren't fully sure, you can go through a drive or 2 drives against Texas and you think, well, you're
not going to win or lose the game.
It may not cost you the game, but if you see struggles, you can make an instant change.
We saw Justin Fry do that with Tegra Shabola multiple times last year, where he was struggling and was removed, and Austin Sarabell was put in his place. So, and you saw how that then evolved for Austin by the end of the year into what he is now. So, like, it's very interesting.
I don't think you want to do that, but Ohio State has the option. And if Phillip Daniels and Ethan Onianwa are truly that close at right tackle, okay, one of them has to start. And if it's going well, you don't make a change. If it's not, you can. I used to be like fully opposed to that idea on the offensive line. You got to have your 5. Let them
Ryan Day changed you.
Well, last year changed me. And it changed a lot of us.
Changed a lot of things for a lot of folks.
And all you can do in life is grow and mature and get better.
And hope to not run afoul of the NCAA while doing it.
Oh.
It's Friday.
Did somebody do that?
It's Friday. It's Freaky Friday. It's turning into 3 Things Friday. 3 Things Friday, because we're talking about quarterbacks and now the tackles.
A few things
and
Friday.
Now we got to talk about the news that's coming today at some point.
Just going to no-sell a few things Friday?
Michigan is expected to get their punishment handed down on Friday. We don't live in the hammer business, so we don't talk about this very often. We don't dive into what all the things that happen or what we think punishment should be, because our opinions don't matter. And the games are over and they were played and it sucks and they cheated, but whatever.
I don't get this notion that it shouldn't matter.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter now because you have to play them in November, and that is the game that matters against Michigan the most right now. Now, obviously, Ohio State would love to have those losses removed from their record book. What you're more in tune with the NCAA and the people who run it. You're known
it's not a great place to be.
You're known for being an NCAA aficionado.
I have had to cover a committee on infractions cases.
What is reasonable to expect? Because the Michigan side, which has gotten everything wrong from the start on this, seems to be pretty locked into the notion that this is going to be a Jim Harbaugh punishment and a Connor Stalions punishment, some money that the school has to pay, and that's it. Do you think that's...
I don't think that would
that satisfy anyone?
No, and I don't think that would satisfy the NCAA for clear violations of bylaws and rules of the integrity of the game, which sounds like a pretty sanctimonious way of describing it, but you would think that a Michigan man would maybe appreciate that.
That's the most important thing about the game, is the sanctimony.
So you can't, in my opinion, and based on the way most of these cases have been handled in the past, if you're going to take some sort of extreme punishment against Jim Harbaugh, and I don't know, I haven't seen it. That's all going to come out on Friday. I'm sure some of it will trickle out before the NCAA is ready to.
Maybe by the time this is public.
If there are severe punishments for Connor Stalions and Jim Harbaugh,
they're irrelevant.
That doesn't impact the institutional charges that are levied against Michigan, of which there were 6. So the most serious ones that the NCAA can legislate and adjudicate and penalize, there has to be forward-facing current repercussions for Michigan. That's just based on the way the NCAA has handled these in the past. And if the punishment is extended for Sherrone Moore, then that is further admission and acknowledgement
that he was involved.
That he was involved, and that the program has not taken more significant steps to address that, which I think would hurt them. And that's why I believe that there will still be a postseason ban, and maybe I'll be wrong about that. We'll find out.
I don't know how you can punish Sherrone Moore, to your point, without adding either scholarship losses or postseason bowl bans, at least one postseason ban. Like, because as to your point, if you're admitting that Sherrone Moore was involved in this, in the cover up, the lying, the deleting text messages, whatever, I don't know how you can acknowledge that on one hand and then on the other turn around and say, but it's fine, we're not going to punish anybody else. Like that seems silly.
It doesn't hold up to any sort of like common sense scrutiny.
Right. And how do you punish Jim Harbaugh? You give him a lifetime ban from the NCAA. Who cares? He's never coming back.
It's not coming back.
And Connor Stallions is never going to get a job in college football. So who cares if he's got a lifetime show cause? Like that doesn't.
And the fact that Michigan's athletic department, and really not even just the athletic department, but the entire university, when you have the president involving himself to the level that he did,
and then skipping town,
and then leaving, they're all trying to beat the posse here. I think they all know through their actions that they were expecting more severe punishments than what has been potentially floated out there.
Yeah, and that's why, like, if for people out there who pay attention to social media, you've noticed in the last few weeks, Sherrone Moore, all the Michigan staff, all the Michigan players are tweeting out this locked-in thing or whatever. That's their way of saying, whatever happens, we just have to focus on ourselves. And I think the reality is that without a postseason ban, without scholarship losses, without Sherrone Moore getting additional penalties, then no punishment matters beyond those three, in my opinion. Like, you can vacate records. The NCAA is not going to take away, or the CFP is not going to take away their title, but you can apply forfeits to games retroactively and have it not matter for how that season played out. But like, it just seems. Like, what would it take to satisfy the people here? And that's the question. Is it just removing those losses?
No, I don't think they care. I mean, I know that they take it personally, for sure, without question. I don't think that that's going to make them feel any better to have that stricken from the record books. They played the game. They know what happened in the game. They, can understand the logistics, and I think that's why it continues to be a conversation that's forward-facing. And I don't think that it's this building alone that feels that way.
What's the rest of the Big Ten?
You've heard more outspoken coaches than Ryan Day talking about this. He's the one that's most directly impacted by it, and he's tried to remove himself from that conversation, I think, for very good reason. But Greg Schiano, Brett Bielema, Matt Rule, others have taken up that mantle and said, this isn't right.
Yeah.
And that's the part where the NCAA really challenges its own integrity. Not the integrity of the game, the integrity of its leadership. If there are no teeth to these punishments, and everyone makes a joke about it, the NCAA for these years and the lengths that it takes to go through the process and, break the rules, who cares? And then you just thumb your nose at them. They don't have subpoena power. Well, this is not something that they needed that for.
Yeah.
So if they can't even punish this, then you truly are in a lawless society.
NCAA.
And then the CSC becomes a laughingstock in the same way.
Right, which people are already trying to turn it into a laughingstock. So NCAA, I've always stood for not consistent at all. I fully expect that they will find a way to screw this up with Michigan on Friday.
Well, that would be consistent.
Yeah, but it's not consistent because Ohio State lost bowl games for trading in, trophies for tattoos. So that would not be consistent with what would actually be a punishment for, as you said, ruining the integrity of the game, which if you don't have integrity in the game, then why have the games played at all? So it's going to be a fascinating day. We will not do like a snap judgment / reaction to it, I don't think, unless it's like crazy, but probably not.
We won't.
We will be back on Monday.
We sure will.
We will talk to Ryan Day on Monday.
We do.
We will be back in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully we'll have
it might be a momentous Monday.
Might be a momentous Monday for someone to be a starting quarterback. We'll find out.
I think it's also going to be a mailbag Monday, to be honest with you. So if you want to get those questions into us at the Austin and Birm Show at gmail.com. Mm-hmm. Again, the Austin and Birm Show.
Yep.
spelled out and
Yeah.
at gmail.com.
Because we want to hear from you. We've gotten a lot of really great emails. It's kind of eye-opening, like why didn't we use an email before? But it's been great. I know there's people who are regularly asking about like subtext and if we would go back to using that system. That seems unlikely if you are someone who's interested in talking to us on a day-to-day basis. There's Letterman Row where we live also during the week. But
You live there?
yeah, for this show, the Austin and Birm Show at gmail.com, that's your spot to drop a line.
And we don't charge you
No.
to email us.
No.
That's free.
Yep, sure is. And we'll even read it.
And then if you make the cut, get your name said
That's right.
on the beat, which I think is the true reward. Because our answers, they might not be as good, but the questions.
The questions have been great. Honestly, they've been really, really good. So keep it up. We appreciate it.
Okay. So we won't be back until Monday. That's a strange feeling. Scrimmage on Saturday. If there's anything that of consequence that we have to react to, we promise we will, but we probably won't see you again until Monday's edition of The Beat. We thank you for watching all week long with Snap Judgments. We've had 3 chances to do that in here, 5 episodes of The Beat. Going to keep ramping it up. There might be another show in the works that I think many of you have been asking for on Mondays coming very soon. We are going to be also at down on campus on the Friday before the Texas game, along with 97.1 The Fan. We got all kinds of coverage.
At the O?
At the O on Lane. We'll have more details on that coming very soon as well, but it's going to be a live show with the Austin Birm Show, a live version of the Austin Birm Show. Yeah. I don't know what we're going to do.
No one knows.
But we're going to figure it out, and all that's coming because we're about 15 days away from kickoff against Texas for Ohio State.
We are 15 days away from kickoff.
How about that? It's amazing.
How about that?
He's Birm. I'm Austin. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you on Monday. Have a great weekend.